The Sahab Tee is a simple top-down design worked with a round yoke. The optional stitch patterning, which is worked in seed stitch, is created with just knits and purls, so it's super easy and fun to do. The fingering weight yarn combined with a larger gauge creates a light and airy shirt for your little ones to enjoy. Today we'll be knitting the Sahab Tee in the smallest size, which is the 0 to 3 month old size. This pattern also comes in 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, and 18 to 24 months, which you can purchase on my Ravelry page or my Etsy store. I'll have that link down below. To get started with this smallest size here, we're going to need a few different things. We'll need some scrap yarn or stitch holders to put the sleeve stitches on hold. We'll need a tapestry needle, 1 stitch marker, and a couple different needle sizes. So we'll need a US 2.5 3mm needle with both a 16-inch cord and a 32-inch cord or longer cord for magic loop. And we'll need the same thing for US 6 4mm needles. We'll need a 16-inch cord as well as a 32-inch or longer cord for magic loop. The yarn I've used for this pattern is a hand-dyed fingering weight sock yarn. I've used approximately 70 grams of yarn to create the smallest size of this t-shirt. The gauge of this pattern is 22 stitches by 38 rows, and that's for 4 inches in stockinette stitch on 4mm needles. We're going to get started with our 3mm needles and the 16-inch cord, so the shorter cord. We're going to be using a German twisted cast on for this tutorial that just allows for extra stretch in the neckband since we don't have a buttonhole or any flaps to allow more space for the head to fit through. So this stretchy cast on will help. We're going to start with our regular slip knot. So place the yarn over your finger, loop it around, and then once more. So we have 3 loops on our finger there. Going to take the middle loop, pass it over, grab that middle strand again, pass it over, and once more. There's our slip knot. Okay, so there's a few extra steps with the German twisted cast on, so I'll show you slowly here. We're still going to have the tail end of yarn placed over our thumb, and the strand that's attached to the ball is going to be placed over my index finger. Okay, so I've made kind of a triangle here. We're going to go under both of these strands of yarn, through this loop on my thumb, grab the strand on my index finger, and through the loop again. Okay, don't worry if that looked a little confusing. We'll go slowly a few more times. So I've got this loop over my thumb. I'm going to go under both of these strands of yarn, through this loop, grab this yarn on my index finger, and pull through. You don't need to pull tight here, just securing it. Okay, again. So we're set up with our triangle here, going under both strands of yarn, through here, grab this yarn on my index finger, and then through the hole again. All right, so we have 4 stitches. We need a total of 72 stitches cast on. So here's 5, under, through, grab, and around, under, through, grab, and around. All right, so go ahead and cast on 72 stitches. I have my 72 stitches cast on. First thing I'm going to do here is make sure my stitches are not twisted. So I'm looking to make sure that they are all facing the same direction. All right, so that ridge is all along the inside and my loops are all along the outside. Nothing is twisted. I'm going to grab a stitch marker, place it at the beginning of round here. This first round is going to be a little bit tight and difficult to knit into, but it will get easier after this round. We're going to start with a knit 1, purl 1 ribbing, and we're going to do 6 rounds of that. All right, so this first stitch here, make sure everything is nice and spread out. We're going to go into this first stitch and knit. Second stitch is a purl. You're gonna have to keep sliding things down on this first round just to make sure that you have the proper tension. So this one is a knit stitch, purl, knit, purl, go ahead all the way around, knit 1, purl 1 until you're back at the beginning of round. I've just completed 1 round and I'm about to go into the second round. So again, we are doing knit, purl, knit, purl all the way around on round 2, and you're going to do 6 rounds total. So we're on the second round, going all the way around, then you just need to do 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll meet back up there. I've completed my 6 rounds of ribbing, and now we need to change to our 4mm needles with the 16-inch cord. So once again, the smaller cord, 4mm needles. You can either slip all of your stitches onto this needle, or what I like to do is just knit my stitches on. So I'm going to kind of get rid of that needle there, and then just go ahead and knit. This first round is knit all the way around. So next we're going to get started with our optional German short rows. The short rows help raise the back of the neck and then help the front of the neck sit a little bit lower. This is something that a lot of people like on their fitted garments for adult sizes. It's not necessarily required for baby sizes. I just like to put them in anyways. It's really up to you if you'd like to add these short rows or not. So if you don't, you can skip ahead. And if you do, you can follow along. We're first going to just knit 18 stitches. I've knit 18 stitches from the beginning of round marker, and now I'm going to turn my work around so that I'm looking at the wrong side. I'm going to take this stitch here that's attached to my working yarn and pass it over to my right hand needle. I'm now going to take this strand of yarn and pass it over top of that needle so that I've made a double stitch. You can see that there's 2 legs of the stitch now instead of 1. We're next going to purl all the way back to the beginning of round marker. Now that we're at beginning of round, I'm going to slip that marker and we are going to purl 18 stitches. I've purled 18 from the beginning of round. I'm going to turn my work over so we're back on the right side, and I'm going to make a double stitch. For the double stitch on the right side, we need that yarn in front. So naturally it sits in the back. Pull it in front, slip that stitch from the left hand needle over to the right hand needle, pull the yarn over top, and there's our double stitch. We're now going to knit to 3 stitches past our previous double stitch. So that means we're knitting all the way across these stitches, slipping our marker, knitting all the way across over here, and you see my double stitch? We're going to knit into that like a normal stitch and then knit 1, 2, 3. All right, so go ahead and knit to that double stitch. I'll show you how to knit into it like normal. We've arrived at the double stitch here, so I'm just going into the stitch. So there's 2 legs there and knitting it as if it were 1 stitch. Okay, so I've knit that, and now I need to knit 3 more. So 1, 2, 3, and turn my work. We're going to make another double stitch on the purl side. So slipping that stitch from the left to the right, pulling my yarn over and setting back up to purl. All right, so this time we're purling all the way across to that double stitch, purling it as if it's 1 stitch, and then purling 1, 2, 3 more. Okay, so I'll stop again at the double stitch so I can show you how to purl into it as if it's 1 stitch. Here we are at the double stitch on the wrong side. Again, I'm going into both legs of that stitch, purling them, and there's 1 stitch. Okay, so now we're going to purl 3 more, turn our work, and make 1 final double stitch. So putting that yarn in front, passing the stitch over, and creating a double stitch. Now go ahead and knit back just to the beginning of round marker. All right, we're ready to get started with our patterning and increases. If you do not want the seed stitch patterning on your shirt, you can just knit these next 2 rounds. If you would like to have the seed stitch detail, you can go ahead and start with a purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, all the way to the end. You'll notice on this round we encounter 2 more of the double stitches, those final double stitches. So again, you'll just be working them in pattern as if they're 1 stitch when you encounter them. The second round of the seed stitch patterning is going to be knit 1, purl 1. So you see we started with a purl on the last round. Now we're knitting, purling, knit, purl, all the way around. Our 2 rounds of seed stitch patterning are complete, and if you did not want that patterning, you've just knit 2 rounds, and now we are going to knit 6 rounds. So just knitting all the way across for 6 rounds. I've completed my 6 rounds and we're ready for our first increase round. So at the beginning of round marker, we're going to now knit 3, make 1 right. So for the make 1 right, I'm going to grab this bar that's between these 2 stitches and place it over top of my needle. I'm then going to go in through that stitch we've just created, grab my yarn, and there's a make 1 right. I'll show that again. So we're going to knit 3, going for the bar in between the 2 stitches, placing it on my needle, and knitting into it. So the increase rate is knit 3, make 1 right, knit 3, make 1 right, all the way around to the beginning of round marker. So you'll see at the end we have knit 3, make sure you're still doing that final make 1 right, right before the beginning of round marker. All right, so that completes our first increase round. So that brings us back to the stitch patterning once again. So we're going to start with the purl 1, knit 1 all the way around, and then the knit 1, purl 1 all the way around, followed by the 6 rounds of plain knitting. I'm going to put that all on the screen so you can look at that while you knit, or you can rewind back to where we started this. It's just going to be the exact same thing until we're at the next increase round, and that's where we'll meet up. All right, my second pattern repeat is now finished and we're ready for the second increase round. So we are now going to knit 4, make 1 right. So knit 1, 2, 3, 4. Make 1 right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make 1 right. All the way back to the beginning of round. Don't forget that very last make 1 right just before the beginning of round marker. All right, so that completes our second increase round and we're about to start our third pattern repeat. So once again, we're back to the purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 all the way around, then the knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 all the way around, followed by our 6 rounds of plain knitting. Again, that's on the screen for you to follow along, and then we will meet back up for our final increase round. Our third patterning section is complete, and now it is time for our third increase, which is going to be knit 5, make 1 right. So knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make 1 right, all the way around. The next 2 rounds, we're going to be doing our seed stitch patterning, so the purl 1, knit 1, followed by the knit 1, purl 1, but we're going to stop after that for this size. All right, so go ahead and just do those 2 rounds of patterning, and then we will get ready to separate for body and sleeves after that. We are now ready to separate for body and sleeves. So we're first going to knit across the back 22 stitches for this 0 to 3 month size. I'm now going to take a darning needle and some scrap yarn. You can use stitch holders if you have those on hand. I'm just going to do it this way today. We're going to place the next 28 stitches on hold. So I'm slipping these stitches from my left hand needle over to the darning needle and then just pulling them onto the scrap yarn. And again, we're putting 28 on hold. Just going to tie a bow here. And then next we are going to cast on 4 stitches using the backwards loop method. So I've got my right hand needle here, and then I'm going to take the yarn and I'm going to loop it over 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And now we're going to knit across the front 44 stitches. So just joining here and knitting 44 stitches. I have another piece of scrap yarn here, and we're once again going to put 28 stitches on hold for the second sleeve. And again, we are going to cast on 4 stitches using the backwards loop method. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we are going to knit the remaining 22 stitches back to the beginning of round. All right, we've now separated for body and sleeves, and this is when it starts to look like an actual t-shirt. And now the easy part comes. So you're going to just go ahead and knit in stockinette stitch, which is just plain knitting round and round for 6 inches. And you're going to measure that from the underarm here. All right, when you come to those underarm stitches, just knit them as normal stitches. They might feel a little bit awkward on the first round, but they'll be fine just after that. All right, so 6 inches, and then we will meet back up for the ribbing. All right, I've completed my 6 inches of stockinette knitting here for the body, and we're ready to move on. Before the ribbing, we have another set of optional German short rows. This is just if you'd like to add a little bit of length to the back hem, similarly to the back of the neck for those optional short rows at the top. So you can skip this if you do not want to add these in. I've lost my beginning of round marker, so we'll put that back on. We're first going to knit 18 stitches. 18 stitches, turn my work. Going to make a double stitch, passing that stitch over, looping the yarn around, and now we're going to purl back to the marker, slipping the marker and purling 18 stitches, turning my work. We're going to make a double stitch. We need to bring that yarn in front, pass the stitch over, loop around. Now we're going to knit to 4 stitches past the double stitch over here. So knit all the way across, and then knit that stitch 1, 2, 3, 4. Turning my work, making a final double stitch on this side. Now we're going to purl all the way to the double stitch, purl that double stitch, and then purl 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Turning my work, and now we're just going to make one last double stitch on this side. And we will now just be knitting back to the beginning of round marker. All right, it's time to start the ribbing, which means we're going to switch back to our 3mm needle with the 16-inch cord. So again, you can slip all of the stitches onto the needle if you'd like. I'm just going to get started right away with the ribbing and just knit right onto this needle. So it's going to be 6 rounds of knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. So knit 1, purl 1, sorry about that, knit 1, purl 1, all the way around, and you're going to do that 6 times. All right, I'm finished my ribbing, and it is time to work our bind off. In the pattern, I have a sewn Italian bind off written for this pattern. If you would like to just do a regular bind off, a stretchy bind off, anything works fine. I'll show you 2 examples here. So for this version here, I've done a sewn Italian bind off, and you can see that it has a fair bit of stretch for the project, and it gives a nice clean finish. This version here, I did just a regular bind off, and I made sure to keep my tension quite loose, and it does still give enough stretch. It fits just fine. You can get it over all of the body parts you need to get it over, just not quite as stretchy as this one, and a different look at the end. So completely up to you. If you'd like to take the time to do a sewn Italian bind off, it definitely takes longer, and it's a little bit more to learn. You can follow along. If not, just go ahead and choose any bind off you would like. All right, so I'm going to start here by taking, oh, another thing I should mention, there is a tutorial that I really like by Brooklyn Tweed, and I'm going to link that down below. If you'd like just a little bit more in depth, maybe a little bit slower teaching of this bind off, you can go ahead and click onto that. I'm going to try and show it at a decent pace here, but can't take the whole tutorial to do that. So go ahead and thread the yarn through. So the sewn Italian bind off is a 4-step repeat that we're just going to keep going around and around, but for the first 2 stitches we have some setting up to do. So we're going to go into this first stitch purlwise and bring that yarn through. I find it helps to tuck this needle in so it's not getting caught all the time. All right, then we are going to bring our darning needle to the back and place it in between these two stitches. All right, so you see I have one stitch, two stitches. I'm going to bring it in through the middle of them, pull the yarn through, and then you'll see this purl stitch here, which is the second stitch. I'm going to go in through that stitch knitwise, so that means from the left of the stitch. And I'm going through the two legs there. You see I have my purl stitch, and now I'm going to go in through the two legs of my purl stitch. All right, so there's the setup, and now we're gonna start the 4-step repeat. So this is the part you're gonna memorize and just keep doing all the way around. We're gonna start with going in through this first stitch knitwise, so again, through the left of the stitch, and we're gonna drop it off here. You can bring the yarn through. We're now going to go in through the second stitch here as if to purl, so from the right side, going in here and bringing the yarn through. I'm then going in through this first stitch purlwise again, and I'm going to drop it off the needle. Okay, now we are going to go in through these two stitches through the center here. So we're going in through the middle, from the back to the front, and then in through this second stitch purlwise. So this is the same as that setup we did at the very beginning. I'll do that a couple times with you because I know there's a lot of steps, but you will be able to memorize it eventually, and it gets quite simple. All right, so we're starting with the first stitch here. We're back at the beginning of our steps. We're going to slip this stitch off knitwise, going in through the second stitch purlwise, dropping the first stitch off purlwise, going in from back to front of these two stitches right in the middle, and then going in through this second stitch purlwise from front to back. All right, so grab a cup of tea, something to watch, and go all the way around, and then we will finish this up. At the final two stitches here, we're going to bring our needle in as if to knit on the first stitch, and then we're going to bring our needle in as if to purl on the second stitch, and then just pull it through both of them. You can go ahead and weave in our end right now. So I'm just going to go in through the very first stitch we did over here to join this final stitch. Then I'm just going in on the wrong side here, and I'm going to find 3 bars and just pass my tapestry needle through, back down, and one more time. Cut your yarn there, and we will get ready to start for the sleeves. We are now ready to pick up the stitches for the sleeves. This is where we're going to grab our 4mm needles with the long cord for magic loop. So go ahead and get those, and then we're going to place all of these stitches that we put on hold back onto the needles. So I'm just slipping one stitch at a time onto the needle here, going all the way around. You can either break or cut the yarn that was used to put the stitches on hold. And now we're going to divide these stitches evenly. So we need 14 stitches on each needle. Going to grab my yarn. Okay, I have 14 stitches on each needle. I'm going to pull off the back 14 stitches, and they're just going to rest on this cord here. And now we're going to look at these 4 middle stitches that we cast on at the underarm. You'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start by picking up one of the center stitches here, so that would be stitch number 3 in what I just showed. I'm going to go in through stitch number 3, grab my yarn, pull through, so I've just created another stitch there, and then I'm going to go in through the next stitch, stitch 4, and pull through. So I picked up 2 of those stitches. Next, what I'm going to do is pick up a stitch in the bar here that's between these stitches and these stitches. All right, so I'm going to go in through this bar. I like to pick it up through the back loop because that closes the gap a little bit more. So I'm just placing it on my left-hand needle, and then I'm going in through the back of that stitch, grabbing, oh, lost it, grabbing the yarn. So that has added 3 stitches over here. All right, and now we're ready to knit across the live stitches on this needle. So go ahead and knit across those ones. So for magic loop, we're now turning, once we've finished knitting across those stitches, pulling this needle and placing these stitches back on, and then we follow the same process. The back needle comes off. So these stitches are going to rest, and now we're going to knit across these stitches here. Okay, now in reverse order, we're starting with picking up that bar in between the stitches. So I'm going to grab that bar, go in through the back, and I picked up a stitch there. Now we're looking for stitch 1 and stitch 2 of the ones that we cast on. Going in through stitch 1, creating a stitch there, and then stitch 2. Oh, I picked up an extra bit of fluff there. All right, so again, flipping and pulling these stitches back on the front needle here. Okay, so now you have 34 total stitches on your needles. We are going to continue working in magic loop for 1 inch. All right, so go ahead and continue just working knit stitches all the way around for 1 inch. I'll show you how I work magic loop one more time if you're new to it. So pulling my back needle off. These front stitches are going to be a little bit loose, and you can tighten them up with this end of yarn here, but they'll secure as we keep going. So knitting across here, needle 1, turning my work, pulling these stitches back up onto the second needle, knitting across the second needle, turning once again, and then always repositioning the needles and pulling off the back one. All right, so go ahead and continue this method for magic loop for 1 inch. My sleeve is measuring 1 inch, and now it's time to switch to our 3mm needles for our ribbing. I usually knit right onto the needle, but for magic loop, I find it easier to slip the stitches. So do whatever you're comfortable with, but I'm going to slip all of these stitches over to my 3mm needles before I get started. Okay, I've switched my needles. We should have 17 stitches on each needle now, and we're going to start our ribbing. So we're doing 6 rounds of knit 1, purl 1 ribbing. So knit, purl, knit, purl across both needle 1 and needle 2 for 6 rounds. All right, we're ready to start the ribbing for the sleeve. I wanted to show a different method. If you know the Italian bind-off method is not for you, if you don't want to spend your time using a darning needle and sewing, this is a much faster way. And I'll show you here, this is the method I used on this version. It still looks very neat and clean. It will have a little bit less stretch, but it still offers enough room for the arm. I do have to say with this bind off though, you need to be extremely careful that you're keeping your tension very, very loose. This is not a stretchy bind off technique, it's a regular bind off technique. So we're just going to make sure that we keep our tension very loose here. So I'm going to knit into the first stitch, knit into the second stitch, pass the first stitch over. You'll see that these loops are very, very loose compared to how I normally knit, all right? I'm not pulling at all on this stitch to tighten it. I'm keeping everything spaced out nicely. All right, so we're just knitting one by one, passing each stitch over the next. Go all the way around, and then I will show you at the last stitch how we're going to secure that. At the final stitch here, you can go ahead and break or cut your yarn. You can leave the stitch on the needle. If it fell off, that's okay too. Just pass that yarn through the stitch to secure it. You can grab your darning needle. Go ahead and secure this over to the first V that you see. I'm just going to pass it through one more time. And then I will weave in this end on the inside or the wrong side of the work. All right, and then you can just cut that end there. So for finishing up, you're just going to weave in all of your ends and then you can trim the yarn. I'll show you here. If you have any underarm gaps, you'll see that there's a gap right here. You can go into the wrong side of your work and you'll find a tail end of yarn from when we joined the sleeves. And I'm just going to follow a few of the stitches, kind of forming a circle. You can also do this on the right side and form a knit stitch. Just find it easier to kind of hide everything on the wrong side. All right, and then you're going to weave that in the same way as the rest of your ends. And you'll see that closes up the gap nicely there. All right, so you can go ahead and weave in all of your ends, trim the ends there, and then I will show you how I block my work. All right, to block your work when you're finished, you're going to run some water. I like just lukewarm water, and you can add wool wash if you have some. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to put my shirt into the water and just give it a little bit of a squeeze to make sure it's covered. After you've had it soaking for around 20 minutes, you can take it on out and make sure that you're not stretching any of the stitches. So I'm just gently squeezing some of the water out, but not pulling or twisting on it at all. I'm going to then bring it over to a towel and I'm going to roll up the towel and just squeeze out any more excess water. After that, you can lay it flat to dry either on blocking mats or a carpet or outside on your porch. Anywhere is fine. This is a really lightweight shirt, so it's going to dry very, very quickly. If you'd like to stay up to date with more patterns coming out, you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Kabora Knits. And if you have any questions or need pattern support, you can go ahead and email me at kaboraknits@gmail.com. Thank you for following along today. I hope you enjoyed this pattern. I love to see all of the finished objects, so if you want to tag me on Instagram, you can also use the hashtag Sahab Tee, and I'm always checking on those finished projects. I love to see them. All right, happy knitting. Until the next one.